أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين، سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما كان جواب قومه إلا أن قالوا أخرجوهم من قريتكم إنهم أناس يتطهرون. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Dear mu'mineen and mu'minat, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our a'mal in this holy month of Ramadan, fasting, prayers and acts of charity. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who increase in taqwa, increase in the provision of taqwa in this holy month of Ramadan, as it is the intended purpose of fasting or sawm. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. It is so that we can gain taqwa. From the beginning of this month, we started a discussion on the real fasting and what is the purpose of fasting being, the purpose being taqwa. What is the process of achieving taqwa through fasting, and therefore what is the real fasting? Again, in the ahadith we read again and again that the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt reminded us not to limit our fasting to hunger and thirst. Therefore, sawm that is only hunger and thirst has only physical benefits. It has benefits for sure, but it's only physical benefits. If we want to make sure that our sawm, our fasting, has more than simply the physical benefits, and it is getting us to the taqwa, which is the purpose of sawm as described in the Holy Quran, then we have to go with our fasting beyond our fuzzy body, beyond our physical fasting, beyond our hunger and thirst. Sawmul batn, as it is described in the ahadith, and go up at least to the next level, which is Sawmul Lisan in the hadith. Lisan representing one of the limbs of the body through which we could either obey or disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our body. Lisan, the tongue, is in fact the most significant one, and therefore the highest or the higher level of Sawm is the fasting or Sawmul Lisan. The next level, however, which is the most significant one, is Sawmul Qalb. And when we spoke about Sawmul Qalb in the last couple of nights, I mentioned that even the fasting or Sawmul Batn will not happen without Sawmul Qalb, at least at a certain level of it. Meaning what? If I don't intend, and the intention doesn't happen on a physical level, the intention is more of a spiritual connection with God. I want to do something for the sake of God. There is an intention of qurbah, which we call it qurbatan ila Allah. If I don't have that intention, even the physical sawm is not accepted, even on a physical level. Therefore, in order for me to be sa'im, I have to at least have that level of sawmul qalb, where the heart has led me to, or any of us, to make that decision that I'm going to starve my body and I'm going to abstain from food and drink and other temptations throughout the day for the sake of God. That level itself is sawm al-qalb. There's no denial that that level itself is part of the fasting of the heart. Another level, when we spoke of Sawmul Lisan, protecting our tongue from saying things that are disobedient to God, from telling lies against God and His Messenger, which is what invalidates even the basic level of fasting, or going higher and not invalidating our spiritual level of fasting with backbiting or any other act, rather purifying our tongues from anything that could be disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That also happens with the intention from the heart. If the heart doesn't have that intention, and we're not speaking of the physical heart, by the way. If the heart does not have that intention, we cannot achieve that level either. However, we said that when the Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, when he introduces this hierarchy of fasting, Sawm al-Qalb being the highest, he is referring to Sawm al-Qalb at a different level to simply achieving the actual physical fasting of abstaining from food and drinking, and also different level to achieving the protection of the tongue so I don't sin with my tongue. He is referring to a higher level of Sawm al-Qalb, and that level is in fact the least, and within that level there are also levels. The least in that level that would happen when we do Sawm al-Qalb is that we don't have the intention of sins altogether, and a higher degree would be that we don't have even the temptation, or we don't have the desire for sinfulness, because we know that it's against our beloved. When the heart contains God and God is the beloved, I know that He is displeased with something, I don't want to do it. It's not even something that I would consider doing. So this is again a level of Sawm al-Qalb that we need to try and achieve. And again, the highest level, this is all what we've already discussed in the last few nights, the highest level being a state of seeing none other than God in the heart. The heart contains nothing other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Qalbu, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, Al-Qalbu haramullah, fala tuskin haram Allah illa Allah. Qalb is a place that belongs to God. Haram is something that is sacred and has sanctity and is especially for someone. Haram, for example, in the court of kings, for example, refers to his family. That that is his family. Nobody can go near them. And Qalb is haram of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nowadays we refer to the shrines of the Ma'sumin as haram because it's a very sacred place, specially made for those who are connected to the Ma'sumin. We go and visit them and get close to them. The Prophet and his family, salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'een, all of that comes from that term, that it's exclusive and it's a sacred place, exclusive for a certain level of connection. Al-Qalbu haramullah. Qalb is the haram of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't allow anything other than God in His haram, in what belongs to Him. At that level, even loving everything and everyone around us is in line with loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We recognize that these are beloved. God created them out of His mercy and love, therefore we love them. We recognize that, for instance, the family He gave us because He wants us to love them, therefore we display love to them. To the degree that Sayyidah Zainab salamullah alayha, the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When she was speaking, as a young girl at the time, she was speaking and having a conversation with her father. And, often children ask, do you love me, to the parents, and or how much do you love me, and so on. She asked that question, and the response from the Imam salawatullah wa salamu alayhi came on a level of, the fact that yes, I love my family, and in line with loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But her response was on her level, which he did not perhaps want to go down to that part or that level of love, but she did bring it up, even as a young child. When she asked him, and he said, yes, of course I love you, she said, no, love is for God. What you have for us is shafaqah. You know, you have this sense of protectiveness, sense of care, sense of providing. This is what you have for us. Love is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She recognized, even as a young girl, she recognized that the heart should only have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything else is in line with the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That kind of love is what we need to achieve. That kind of sawm al-qalb is what we need to, in fact, achieve. We need to train. Sawm is training. Sawm is so that we train our body. We train our body from basically with abstaining from food and drink. We train, or other temptations, we train our body so that we're able to control ourselves when something is haram. This is halal, food is halal, but today we are training our body that since it's the month of Ramadan, we're fasting for the sake of God, it's haram for us to eat. We train our body, we control our nafs therefore. Sawm is to train. Sawm al-qalb is to train the heart. And one of the ways that we can in fact train the heart, I mentioned last night briefly, is, or we can basically get discipline. We call it in Arabic, it is often referred to as tarbiyah. Tarbiyah is different to ta'lim. Sometimes you teach someone something, it takes some time to give them some knowledge, teach them some information basically. But besides teaching them, you need to constantly train them. That is called tarbiyah. It's almost like a tree, a baby tree that is growing and it's not straight. Initially you need to water it frequently. You need to even sometimes put some shade on it because it cannot take the hot summer days. As we're approaching the summer days, we need to put some stick next to it to keep it straight and so on, so the winds don't. All of that is part of tarbiyah. The heart that has not reached that level requires tarbiyah. One of the means through which we can in fact train our hearts is tawbah. Last night I mentioned it, and inshallah tonight I want to speak briefly about tawbah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, He speaks about at-tawwabin, one of the most beautiful titles that are for people beyond this world. In this world, we have titles, you know, we have doctor, professor, millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire nowadays. None of the other ones are good enough for some. We have all these different titles that people have in this world. In the hereafter, the titles are totally different. Your wealth will not benefit you. How much information you collected will not benefit you. You will not have a title of a doctor or professor. You will not have a title of a billionaire or millionaire. None of that will matter. The titles that would be there in the hereafter are things like shakirin, those who are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As-sa'imeen, those who are fasting. Al-qa'imeen, those who are establishing of prayers. One of them is at-ta'ibeen or at-tawwabeen. They're both titles related to tawbah, one stronger than the other. Ta'ibeen, those who do tawbah. Tawwabeen, they do it very frequently. As soon as they make a mistake, they immediately return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those. يُحِبُّ التَّوَّابِينَ وَيُحِبُّ الْمُتَطَهِّرِينَ. I began with an ayah where the people of dunya, last night I spoke about ghafla. And ghafla is one of the worst things for the heart. To be ignorant of where it is and what it is supposed to be doing and what relationship it's supposed to have, where we from, where we in, where we going to, min ayna wa fi ayna wa ila ayn, as Imam Ali alayhi salam puts it. Being ignorant, thinking that it's all about this. Just the life that we're living. It's all about the material life that we're living. Having a good house, having a good lifestyle, having a good car, having a good job, career. It's thinking that it's all about this is ghafla. And ghafla is one of the problems that would not allow the heart to be in a state of purification and sawm, and would not let us get to the level where the heart is empty of anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I mentioned the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you love your parents, children, your brothers, wives, houses, wealth, all of these things, if you love them more than you love God, and in line with loving God, the messenger of God, then you should expect the consequences of that. تَرَبَّصُوا حَتَّى يَأْتِيَ اللَّهُ بِأَمْرِهِ. It's not going to be good. And you know where it starts? We start suffering, and I mentioned that last night. We start suffering from within our own selves because of our own attachments. But if we attach to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's different. Tawbah is when I recognize that I was absent-minded. I realized that I was in ghafla and I want to return. And that return is literally tawbah. There are people who are ignorant in ghafla. They say regarding the believers, regarding the good ones, regarding those who purify, they say أخرجوهم من قريتكم. Get them out of your city. What is their problem? إنهم أناس يتطهرون. Because they are purifying, because they are returning, because they don't share the same values as we share. Have you heard this in today's world? What are the values? You have to have, I guess you have to sit around a table with alcohol being served on a Friday night with your colleagues, and that's the value. If you don't have that value, get out. Isn't that how some people perceive it? Unfortunately, many people, they tell me, Sheikh, if I don't sit with them, I will not get promotion. Hell with that promotion if that's what it's going to take. If a promotion is going to, if a job or a promotion or wealth or anything for that matter in this dunya is going to take disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what am I going to say on the day of judgment? Ya Allah, I was just after a few bucks. Wouldn't the answer come, I guaranteed your sustenance, your rizq was guaranteed, you would not die before you receive everything that was decreed for you? And therefore, if we're in that state of ghafla, some people when they are in that state, they don't like it when someone is different. They start putting labels on them. إِنَّهُمْ أُنَاسٌ يَتَطَهَّرُونَ. They're backward people. There's something wrong with these people. This is the problem of Dunyawi people. And if we do not purify, and if we do not return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Him with a lot of, in fact, passion to help us achieve tawbah, we will end up with these people or like these people. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the opportunity in this very month of Ramadan, in this holy month of Ramadan, to achieve tawbah, to return to Him and purify our hearts from ghafla, from ignorance and negligence. We ask Him to make us amongst those who listen to what's said and follow what's best. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.